It's Christy Vegan. I am back. We are here today to do another Instagram Live, and I'm really excited to be talking today to Jenna Morrow. So she is another Foyr user, interior designer, and we can't wait to bring her on and hear all about her story and how she uses Foyr Neo in her business. And mind you, she's quite successful. So let me go ahead and bring her on. 1 second. And I hope everybody's doing well. One moment before I bring her on, I want to just let you guys know on the early side, send us questions because the last 10 minutes we're going to be answering your questions that you're typing in. So, all right, thank you. Hopefully this works better than last Friday. I don't know if any of you guys were there. Jenna, hi.
Hi.
How are you? Oh, you look so beautiful.
Thank you.
So
Thank
festive.
you. Yes. And red is my favorite color, so it's perfect time of year for it.
That's awesome. Good for you. Well, welcome. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I'm looking forward to this.
Good. Yes. So what we like to do is bring different designers on who are Neo users who use the software in their business. And obviously you're very successful. So we'd love to hear all about your story and how you discovered Foyr and how you began to implement it in your business.
Yes, absolutely. So before I start, I am based in the Washington, D.C. area. So I primarily service clients in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia.
I'm in Maryland.
And so, what's that?
I'm in Maryland.
You are?
Yes.
Okay, we have to connect offline. And so when I started my business in 2021, I immediately realized that I needed help. And so I found a designer based in Georgia, and she's my junior designer now. She's still with me. And so when she joined, she knew how to render exceptionally well. And so I asked her, well, what software are you using? And she said, Foyr. And so I had never heard of Foyr before. And so I was like, okay, well, if that's what she's using and her renders look great, let me try it too. And so she was primarily doing the renders, but I did try to dabble in it a little bit. And then I was like, okay, let me just let her do it. But after a while, I was like, let me see if I can teach this to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started learning it, and it was so easy to learn on my own. And so I was like, no brainer, we're going to stick with Foyr. So that's how I heard about it, started with it, and that's how I became familiar with how to actually use the software.
That's amazing because I sort of had a similar situation in that I needed to figure out a way to present my vision and design. But I remember going and like major Google search, like, how do I do this? And, I'm thinking other like heavy duty software, providers, and I'm getting a little overwhelmed.
Right.
And I remember finding Foyr, and it was like, sign up for your free 14 days, which there's no point. Just go ahead and, get your subscription because you're going to be signing up once you figure it out.
Yes.
But I remember it was like, you're going to build your room in 30 minutes or less. And I kind of balked at it. And I was like, okay, we'll see, And kid you not, it was like 10 minutes and I had a full-on bedroom.
Yes.
And it was incredible.
It's quick. And plus, like, what I loved about it, one of the things I loved about it when I was introduced to it is the fact that if the 3D library doesn't have a piece of furniture or decor that you need, you can just submit it to the Foyr support team and they'll literally create a 3D model for you that you can use. So you're giving your client exactly what you recommend being a part of their design. And so I when I saw that, I was like, oh, no brainer. We have to stick with it.
Yes. And that is exactly one, like probably the selling point for me because, as a designer, and I'm sure you too, and a lot of us out there are recommending specific pieces. Like we have relationships with, certain account reps, for different retailers. And we want to showcase that product. And so, yes, like having the ability just to send them a link and you request it and send some images. Like I have never had an issue whatsoever. And my clients are literally blown away.
Yes, they love it. And they appreciate being able to see the space exactly how it's going to appear versus saying, well, we the software didn't have this exact lamp, but we found something similar.
Mhm.
No, with Foyr, this is the exact lamp that we're recommending. Pattern, scale, color, everything.
Yeah. As I'm reading these questions, I know that they're kind of coming through. Tell me, what is your favorite feature of Neo outside of, the product piece of it that we just talked
Yeah.
about?
Um, there's so many. My favorite, if I had to choose, there's this there's this feature, and I may not get the name completely right, but basically there's a feature where you can like edit the render towards the end where you can adjust like the saturation and you can adjust the lighting. I would say that's my favorite because you can tailor the render to the environment that you're actually creating. So if you're creating a windowless room, when you're rendering the actual image, you can say, low light or highlight if you're rendering a very well lit room. So I would say that's my favorite. If I had to choose between, I have quite a few favorites, but that would be my
Yeah.
first.
I mean, the rendering process itself, is incredible in that, to your point, you can pick that environment and,
Yeah.
be it windowless or be it, a mountain range, a tropical like beach background. You have different settings geographically, but then as well, you've got that lighting, night, day, product light on, sun off. Like, yeah, it's really, really incredible.
I agree. I agree. And I also too, I just love how quickly the images actually like render when
Hmm.
you are rendering them. It's quick. And then what I also like is you can select render and then move on to something else. And Foyr will email you and say, your renderings are complete. And I like that too, because then I'm not, sort of held hostage by the
Right.
software. I can then say, okay, this is rendering. Let me move on to a different task. And
Mhm.
I'm still notified. So I like that too.
Yes, exactly. So tell me a little bit about, when you have used Foyer in your business, like what is the response that your clients have? Are they expecting something like that, or, are they blown away?
They are because a lot of them don't, when I say a render, they don't really understand what that means. And so often I send them an example. The example I send them it's something that we've created in Foyer in the past, but when they actually see their space, the reaction is just always they're blown away, they're speechless, they get really, really excited. And then I think because projects can take a long time, and so by the time we're submitting a sample design and a render to them, we're almost halfway through the project. And I think having felt a little bit of decision fatigue and exhaustion from the beginning to the render phase of the project, I think the excitement then is reignited and it carries them from the middle to the very end. So they love when they see it. They get into the details, and Foyr lets you do that within the render. And so when the client does zoom in on a particular element, they can really see, like I said, the scale of everything, the patterns, the color, the texture. And so it's always just a really, really good response.
Yeah, I, I completely agree, and that's very similar to an experience, or all my experiences with my client. Because it's funny when, even when people say, what do you do, and I try to lean on the rendering side of my business, and I sprinkle in interior design, but I like to think of myself as an interior design rendering artist, right? And when
Yes.
people they hear that, they're like, what does it mean, and so when I explain to them, generic layman terms, and it's funny because I now have friends coming back and they're like, what was the name of that software again, because
Yes.
I want to do this, like and it's really, really interesting and just really fun to see it come full circle.
Agree. I agree. And to your point about friends asking you, Foyer is so easy to learn how to use and also so affordable that if you're not a designer, you can still subscribe to Foyer and use it for your own house. If you want to
Hmm.
see how something you're envisioning will come together prior to investing in the items,
Right.
Foyer is a great, great software to use for that too.
Right. So tell me about how, do you and your junior designer, do you guys collaborate on projects?
Yeah.
Is that something that you guys do within the software
Yeah.
itself?
So what we do is I'm the one who goes to all the design consultations. And so while I'm there, I capture measurements, I hand draw the floor plan and then I send it to her and she actually recreates the floor plan in Foyr. And then we do our space planning also within Foyr. And so we literally use it for everything. And then when it's actually time to render, she does it, but sometimes it's like she gets stuck on something, or if I say, you know, I just have this vision, let me just play around and see how it looks. Instead of wasting her time trying to like get her to understand my vision, I'll just jump into Foyr on my own and just create something. And then if it works, I'll let her take it from there. If it doesn't, then we figure it out. But we do it together, but for the most part, she's the one who handles it because I'm on the client-facing side of everything.
Right. And that's, you know, one point I want to make, and I'm so glad you guys work that way because it's collaborative, right? You have the ability to add multiple users to a certain project and work together, you know, in a real live situation, and be able to see, you know, what changed. So being as though it's web-based, that's, you know, why we're able to do that. And it, you know, talk about saving time, saving money, you know, client satisfaction, like it kind of checks all the boxes.
I agree. And I also, speaking to the point of collaboration, it's so easy to organize projects within Foyr. So if we have 4 projects running concurrently, you can just jump in and say, okay, this is client A's folder, client B. When you open that folder, you can break it down further and say, here's the floor plan folder, the space plan folder, or you can have everything in one folder together. But the way you can organize your projects and files in Foyr is so easy. And I'm very big in organization and like operations and a process. So Foyr just makes it easy not only to create the design, but also to organize work.
Well, what tips would you give somebody who's starting out and new to interior design, but knows like they've got something, right? And so following that passion, they have now discovered Foyr. What would be your tips to them in getting started and using the software?
Getting started, I would say literally just jump in. And if you're new to design or you're just starting your own business, you may not have clients, but you may have a vision for a particular room in your home, or maybe you think about your dream client and maybe there's a room that you would love for them to inquire about your services so you can design it for them. Just create it. Jump in, play around with Foyr. The other feature it has that I like is you can screenshot a pattern from like a furniture store's website, and you can upload that to Foyr and you can apply it to like an area rug, curtains, wallpaper. So play around with those features, create a floor plan, a space plan, you know, and also play with the measurements and dimensions because Foyr is really good at allowing you to draw everything to scale. So that would be the biggest thing, and that's how I learned. I just played around as much as possible. And if there's anything you don't know, Foyr also has really good customer service support.
Yeah.
So I had a master class with someone named Noemi. She was great. And so there's a lot of ways that you can learn it. If you're ever stuck or you're overwhelmed or intimidated, you can still learn how to use the software effectively. So, but the first thing I would say is get in there and play with it.
Right. And, you know, from a support perspective, there are people who, you know, maybe don't pick it up as quickly, but the response that that team has and their patience and, you know, I would just say, so they're being so thorough has helped me in situations where I'm like, I have to get this done and it's not working. And they're like, oh yeah, no problem. And they're always there, you know, there is no extra fee for touching the, you know, request button and reaching out to that team. Like they are on it. So it's right. And it's like an extension of your own business.
Exactly. And they also offer classes. Like I got an email this morning about they're having a class about how you can design a kitchen in Foyr. So there's always learning opportunities coming from Foyr too. So there are just so many ways you can learn how to use the software. And even if you know how to use it, there are ways to learn how to get better at it too. So that's what I love.
Oh yes, and our last guest, Rehab Queen 2020, she says the response from the Foyr team is amazing. Yes. So I'm gonna like try to scroll through here and look at some questions that have come through. We've had quite a few actually. So does Foyr Neo offer walkthroughs?
Walkthroughs in terms of when you create a render, you can do a 360.
That or like a virtual tour?
Yes,
like virtual walkthrough.
They offer both. You can do virtual and you can do a walkthrough once the render is complete. You can create literally a walkthrough and then you can send the link of the walkthrough to your client. they just get started, and it operates very similar to when you're doing a virtual tour of a home online. It's the same
Yeah,
idea.
very much. That is a huge selling point for me as well. And it, like if you're looking at different ways of trying to, create margin or sell extra services, that could be, an add-on as an extra thing that you're able to provide your client, or, wrap it in all as one.
Right.
So where do you, Jenna, draw your inspiration from?
So many places. The number one place I would say is outside. I love the outdoors, and what I love about it is there's so many different colors and textures. There's so much dimension and depth to the outdoors, and so I would say a lot of it comes from there. But also fashion and travel. The way, fashion, you can play with so many different colors and shapes and textures. I love that. And then travel, you go to another country and visit a coffee shop,
Mm-hmm.
visit a hotel, and you walk into the lobby. There's just so much inspiration to be found when you walk outside of your home. So I would say travel, nature, and fashion.
I would wholeheartedly agree. Like, I don't think I could come up with a better answer. And like, how fun is it when you go into like some swanky restaurant into the bathroom
Yes,
and it's just like that blow you away, like, oh, look at the tile,
yes,
you know?
yes. And even like the hardware, like I've
Yes.
seen bathrooms where the towel holder is a hand that looks like
Mm-hmm.
this. Ecology has one similar, and you just put your like it's yeah, the possibilities are endless when you travel and you see what so many other hotels and Airbnbs have done.
Mm-hmm. And then you can take that picture and say, hey, Foyr team, like, can we create this? And they
Yes,
say, sure, no problem.
yes,
So
that's
yeah,
right.
no element is too hard. Okay, let me keep going here. We did that one. What tips do you have? So what are some of the best practices for lighting in Foyr Neo? Do you have any?
Um, I wouldn't say best practices. I typically, you can play with the render once it's complete. And so for me, I try to base the render off of the environment that I'm actually trying to replicate. So if it's windowless, I like to go a little bit darker just so that the client is not looking at something that has high exposure and brightness on the render. And then in real life, we put it together and it doesn't look anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So best practice for me is just following the environment that I'm actually trying to create.
Yeah, I would agree. Things I have run into are kind of like darker spots, in the render because maybe the sun isn't there, or I don't have some lamp element
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not taking a picture of that way.
Right.
There are different lighting, like cubes or things that you can attach to the wall and, then set it behind the camera. Like, you almost sort of get into this photography lighting element, and if you understand that as a designer and you're technical, it's incredible. And the renders that you can create also in 12K plus like natural lighting, or having the sun come in at the direction the house is facing. I try to think about that one,
Yes.
how the light hits in the home, and like, again, all of it's possible.
Agree. Agree. Yeah, Foyer has there's so many ways that you can play with a render with the lighting and the brightness and just so many different aspects of the image.
Mm-hmm. And I think somebody had said something about a dining room render, and I'm not sure who or what we're referring to, but the comments about being able to distinguish between a render and a photo. Have you ever ran into that?
Yeah, so I actually had created a reel of a client's dining room, the render, and then a video of the actual dining room followed behind it. And I showed it to my husband, and he said to me, you may want to put text over it that says this is the render and this is the real room. He said, because I can't really tell the difference. So I run into that before, and
Yeah.
I've had clients say, is that a real room or is that a render? And I'll
Hmm.
have the render, not a real room.
Right. And I think, as a, kind of circling back to the new designer thought process, if you don't have that client yet landed, utilize Foyer as a means of showcasing your vision. That is like a whole home that you just can, decorate and design for free
Right.
and put it all together. And with those renders looking so realistic, there's a whole marketing situation for you.
That's right. That's right. And that's what I did in the very, very beginning. I just use renders to kind of help market the business to show that I have the talent and the vision. I just need the
Right.
client.
Yep.
And so I got there when the client started pouring in, but it took a little time.
Oh, that's fantastic. Let me keep going here. Yes, the response for the Foyr team is amazing. Can you share your favorite project you've worked on using Foyr Neo? That's a good question. Thank
It's
you.
a good question. There's so many. Mm, I think I would say we did a kids room in Washington D.C. and it was a room for a boy and a siblings, boy and girl. They were going to be sharing a room together, and it was so fun because it wasn't a big space, but we wanted to make sure it had a lot of impact and
Mhm.
personality. And so with Foyer, we got to experiment with wallpaper, different lighting styles from playful sconces to pendant lights to different rugs. We got to have, a layered look with the rugs. Like Foyer just let our imaginations run wild with this project. And so we were able to incorporate so many different silhouettes and colors and layers. It was really, really fun. And it came out looking exactly like the render, which made me so excited because again, going back to what I said earlier, there's so many details and just small touches
Mhm.
that really can make an impact in a design. And Foyer allowed us to do that. There was one sconce. They were this beautiful shade of blue, and you put them on the wall, but they could lean out and lean back and lean left and right. And we were able to put that in the render. So again,
They could
those
see
small
actual
details. Yes,
mobility in, different still shots.
correct. And
That's
even
awesome.
stuffed animals and books. And we had a little cup with some colored pencils in it.
Mhm.
We could literally play with anything. And so I would say that one was my favorite because of the way we were able to infuse personality, but also those small details that were very impactful.
Right. And I think, when you look at photographs in magazines, right, of homes that have been essentially it's a set, but it's the pinnacle image and in those it's like details matter,
Yes.
right? And so if you were to put together a bedroom and it's like here's two twin beds and here's some wallpaper, like that's not very exciting, right? And
No.
so being able to have the ability to, as you say, like put all of those special personal touches into it. I mean, what client is going to say no, right?
Right, right. And those are the things too that I think when you're a designer really demonstrates your value
Mm-hmm.
because clients, if they do it on their own, they are, I don't want to say incapable, but they get overwhelmed by those small details.
Right.
And I think when you're able to show the small details before you even style the room and you're able to show them in a render, I think that's when the client has the light bulb moment of this is why I
Right.
hired you.
Yes, I completely agree. We'll keep scrolling. Uh, okay. When I want to. Okay. So I. Hmm. So here's I think they're looking for some advice, but working for I've been working with this for 4 years and I really want to work for the company as a designer. So I think they're asking like, how can I take what I'm doing in Foyer to market myself and to sell my services to either get with a client and have a client hire me or work with a company? What would
Sure.
your advice be?
My advice would be if you have a website, and it doesn't have to be anything extremely elegant, it can be very simple, a one pager and continuous scroll, but I would say add your work from Foyer to your website to again demonstrate that you have talent, you have the vision, and then play with different types of rooms. Maybe you design an entryway in Foyer, maybe you design a kids room in Foyer just to show your versatility as a
Mm-hmm.
designer. And then I would also say play with their different formats. So you can do an image, but you could also do that 3D walkthrough. So I would say use all of the features that are within
Mm-hmm.
Foyer and add them to your website. And also social media is another big
Yes.
one. And not just Instagram. Of course, Instagram is a very important one because I feel like that's where our generation and even the generations before us get a lot of their information and design inspiration. But don't forget about Pinterest. Pinterest is
Mm-hmm.
another big one. And then also YouTube Shorts are also really good. So when you are creating a 3D walkthrough, maybe you screenshot on your phone the 3D walkthrough, use that, turn it into a video, put that on Instagram, put it on YouTube Shorts, even Pinterest. And I think once you get the word out there about you and your work,
Mm-hmm.
I think that clients will start to trickle in, or you can use that as a portfolio to get yourself on the team of a design firm.
Exactly. And that's 1000% what I did, you know, and in having to kind of come up with these ideas, and I was redoing my own home. And so it was like, okay, how do I want to make this look? And so if I'm selling that to my clients, why would I not do that for myself?
Right.
But taking what I did or created in my own home, which, you know, that's easy, to a natural place, but then to show that, and that's where clients began seeing it and me posting it. And they're what is that? You know, and this is my second career. So it was like off the wall. People were seeing these things. I'm like, what is
Right.
that? But
Right.
yeah.
And also, don't be, to your point, Christy, like, don't be afraid to use your own home
Mhm.
as your portfolio, right? So maybe you create a render for a room in your home that you want to either update or completely redesign. Take yourself through the steps that you would take a client through. Draw the floor plan, draw a space plan, all within Foyr, create the render, and then design the space. Or it could be a little corner
Mhm.
in a living room that you want to update. And again, add that to your portfolio. Same thing as friends. You can
Mhm.
ask friends, hey, do you have a small area in your home that you want, redesigned or updated? I can help you. I've done that. I've designed rooms for friends for free,
Yep.
just to say, I want to add this to my portfolio. And I created the render and then designed the space. And that's also within my portfolio.
Exactly. And then having the ability to, you know, show those before and afters, it's incredible.
It is very
Yeah.
impactful.
Yes. Okay. So I think this will be probably our last question, because it's a doozy. What are the three most important things to consider when you're selecting a 3D design software?
Oh, wow. Um, The first one I would say is cost, especially in the beginning. If you're new to being a designer or having your own firm, cost is a really big one. Foyr is so affordable. I was really, really surprised when I looked into it and I saw the different options and I was like, wait, is this the price for like the first 3 months, or is this
Right.
the price? I was really surprised. And so affordability was really big for me, especially starting out because I just had so many business expenses. So price one. Two, I would say customer service, because if you ever get stuck, you can't just like phone a friend. You have to contact the
Right.
company. And if they are hard to reach, or if you send them an email and you get a response that's like, we'll get back to you in 24 hours. Like, no, no, no.
I don't have
This work I'm doing
24
is
hours.
very, right. I don't have 24 hours. Like, my client presentation is tomorrow. Please help me now. So that, and Foyr offers, like, you can chat with them. You can email with them. There's so many different ways to reach their customer support team. So that was really big for me too. And then I would say the third one is ease of use, but also the ability to support your goals as a designer. So for me, my biggest goal was, when a client sees that render, I want them to see every single detail that I'm recommending for their space. And Foyr allows me to do that. So that was the third thing for me, is Foyr aligned with my goals as a designer and with my goals of how I want to serve my clients.
Yes, presentation is
Yeah.
everything.
Yes.
So, and to, I think, be a confident person, you need to be confident in what you're presenting. And if
Right.
you can have that and you know you're walking in there, like, go girl.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Are there
Of
any
course.
parting words that you'd like to share? And please plug yourself on Instagram, share with
Yes,
everybody.
happily. So parting words, I would say the best thing you can do for yourself is just start. Whether you're considering starting your own design firm, whether you're considering going back to school for design, or whether you're considering learning a rendering software like Foyr, just start. That's what I did. I worked in corporate for 10 years and then I pursued design. I just started and now look where I am. So just start. And then to find me, I am Jenna D. Morrow, just like my handle, everywhere. Pinterest, TikTok, here. I have a YouTube channel, so you can find me everywhere. And then my design firm is Morrow Design Studios. Morrow is Morrow, just like my last name. So that's where you can find me. If you have any other questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer them and help you. And I highly recommend, I can't say it enough. If you didn't get it throughout this whole live, I can't recommend Foyr enough. So they have my vote. I recommend trying them, and you'll be so happy you did, because again, the affordability, customer support, just everything about Foyr has been so great for me and my design firm. So
That's amazing.
thank
So,
you.
yes.
Thank you, Christy.
Yes. Well, we will hook up offline
Yes,
and
thank
being as
you.
a next door neighbor, sort of. But
Exactly.
well, thank you so much for joining us. Happy
Thank
holidays to you and
you.
yours.
Thank
So,
you so much. And
all
thank you
right.
everyone for joining.
Yes. Talk to you soon. Yes. And
All
thank you,
right.
everybody. The questions were amazing. And we'll talk to you guys next time.
Thank you, Kristen.
Bye.
Bye.